I wish I knew karate. I wish I could afford my hobbies. I wish that I could only flow like how my thoughts be. I wish I had my wishes. I wish for righteous visions. I wish for 100-gallon tanks full of tropical fishes.
What's up, my wizards? Dev from mtg, the place with the decks down there. Today, we have a deck that I didn't think would get as much support as it totally got. This is green-white life game with a blue splash. So now when people find out that you play Magic and they're like, get a life, you're like, oh, I've got a Philidor Sovereign deck that gains life. And then they'll laugh at you and go throw a football, and you'll be like, enough about my high school experiences. Let's talk about the deck for a second. We're playing, like I said, a sort of mid-rangey thing right here. I hesitate to call it ban, although it technically is. There is one blue card in the deck, but mostly a mid-range green-white sort of manifest deck. You know, we really want to take advantage of the power of Master of the Unseen. So let's take a look at it from top to bottom. 18 creatures in the deck, starting with the sideboard staple. Finally made her way into a main deck. 4 whole copies of Aire Cleric. You know, Aire Cleric, we've got to have. You know, usually this would be in any sideboard with white in it. Anybody who's been playing tournament Magic or even F&M Magic knows that this is everywhere in white sideboards. And this deck wants to play it in the main deck. A great speed bump against aggro, and you know, we want to abuse the power of this in this deck, obviously. I mean, it's always been just like a hair off. I've read articles when people say, like, this could be in main decks, you know? It's just some slightly better options. But in a deck that does what this deck wants to do, yes, play set of Aire Cleric. The thing is awesome. Here's some more first. 2 copies of Hidden Dragon Slayer to start it off. Not only can this kill stuff a little bit higher up than us, which there's going to be a lot of big creatures in this standard, it looks like, but is also lifelink. Helps us gain a little bit of life, you know, and that's also good. I thought about Seeker of the Way in this slot, but I just don't know that we're playing enough spells, and something like this is removal, which we don't really have enough of, all things considered, and has lifelink all the time. We don't have to turn it on or anything. So I think, and especially with Master of the Unseen, obviously, you know, just everything works together to make Hidden Dragon Slayer really awesome in the deck, and it is a key piece of removal for us, so yeah, let's do it. 3 entire copies of Den Protector, which I think is important to play in the deck. A lot of stuff we're going to be wanting to get back. You know, like I said, we don't play too many spells, but it's nice to have, you know, something to recur the spells that we do play, which are very important for us, but also to get the creatures that die back. You know, just as long as we're playing a mastery deck, we want to play a lot of copies of Den Protector. It really helps our longevity, you know, and helps us get stuff back. And there's really nothing wrong with Den Protector, and I could go on and on here, but there's no reason to. Den Protector is just a natural, obvious in the shell of this deck. Just 1 copy of the main deck of Death Mist Raptor here, a card that a lot of people like, so do I, but I don't think it's a 3 or 4 of in this deck or anything like that. You know, we are working off of Master of the Unseen, and we are working off of Den Protector and stuff like that, but the card is just not as vital to the deck's overall game plan as it needs to be. We are versatile, we can win off of creature damage, and a Megamorph Death Mist Raptor does, you know, activate Feed the Clans, giving us 10, you know, life. That's pretty good, but a card that also works in the slot, Nissa, sort of does the same thing. You know, once you get the 4/4 in play, that also does helps out Feed the Clans, you know, and gives us card advantage, you know, and the game's going to go long anyway, so you'll usually flip her. Helps us get drops, so I could play Nissa over Death Mist. I could totally see that being a thing. Here's a card I wasn't sure about including at first, but it turns out that it's great, and we needed a card sort of in this slot. Here's 2 copies of Whisperwood Elemental, which really ties the room together, you know? It's not bad at all. Really, really good against a lot of the master removal we see going around, you know. Not only that, but really combos well with the Master of the Unseen, and just everything about Whisperwood is good, and I think 2 copies is pretty much exactly right. I don't want to go too much higher than that, but Whisperwood does his job super well in this deck, and protects us in a lot of ways. 2 copies of Dragonlord Dromoka in the main here. Perfect creature for the deck. You know, lifelink is awesome, good against control, check that off. So everything, and you know, there's not many instant speed things in the format right now, because like Ruinous Paths is so huge, Roast is going to be a card people play. I mean, there's just so many sorcery speed things. We can sort of all agree on that, you know. So, you know, it's not like it's as amazing, but the format will play as many instant speed, you know, removal things as it possibly can. So this will stop all of those, including Abzan Charm, and a couple of other relevant things. So just Dragonlord Dromoka does all the stuff that we want it to do. It's a great threat to sort of finish out the game. We've got, you know, we're fairly versatile because of this. And of course, 4 copies of Philidor Sovereign. Now that is 6 drops, but we'll get there, don't worry. We stall the beginning of the game very well with Hidden Dragon Slayer, Aire Cleric, you know. It's not that tough to get into the later stages where we're able to drop these guys fairly consistently. And yeah, I want to play all 4 copies. I could see 3 of Felidar Sovereign, but I went ahead and played 4. It's not like he's amazing in multiples, but I want him to be as available as possible at pretty much all times. Really cool when he's, manifested off of Mastery or Whisperwood Elemental or something like that, and you can, at the end of their turn, flip him up, go, untap, and win the game. That's cool. It happens, too, because the deck, again, creates board stalls very, very well, and Mastery is really, really good in a board stall situation. On to the spells. You're playing 4 copies of Mastery of the Unseen in this thing, Again, we want it to be as available as possible as all time. This is great in multiples, it turns out, and we can, we don't have to worry too much about overextending. Back to Nature is not in the format anymore. We play multiples of this. I think it's totally safe, so that's just awesome in multiples. And really good against control, fine against aggro if we can get to that stage of the game, which I've already said, we get to that stage of the game fairly easily, We're playing enough lands to where we can manifest a guy pretty much every turn, if that's what we need to do. We're playing enough creatures, I think, 18 in the deck, to reliably manifest some good things, and if we do get lands, that's totally fine too. So just everything about Mastery is good in helping us prolong the game, gain the life necessary to win off Felidar Sovereign, or get the creatures necessary to win against control, or stall the game against aggro, and even other mid-range decks. Just everything is still good about Mastery. That's always been good about Mastery. 2 copies of Feed the Clans in the main deck. Now, this is in the main deck for the strict reason that we're also playing 1 copy of Alhammaret's Archive, which I'll get to a little bit later. If you have an Alhammaret's Archive and, say, a Felidar Sovereign, or a Dragonlord Dromoka, or, say, a Death Mist Raptor that's been megamorphed, anything 4 power, then you've just gained 20 life. That's not bad at all. And if you're a little, if you're at higher or equal to your starting life total, Felidar Sovereign will win you the game your next upkeep. So that's a cool little combo, but aside from that, the card is not entirely amazing. It is another sideboard staple that plays really well in our main deck in sort of this idea here, but I don't think it's vital to play all 4 copies in the main deck this time, I think that we're definitely going to put the other 2 in the sideboard against like heavy aggro, but I haven't needed it too much in testing. It's just good to have in there. Here's a little removal. 2 copies of Valorous Stance and 2 copies of Stasis Snare in the main deck. Valorous Stance obviously helps us keep our big dudes around. That's cool. Dragonlord Dromoka protects it, protects Sovereign, and all of our other guys too. So Valorous Stance is good for that reason and hits dudes that are like huge and would just otherwise end the game against us. Even in board stall situations, like in the Dragonlord Atarka sucks, and it's still going to do its 5 damage when it hits the board, but we're able to remove it fairly easily with something like Valorous Stance for just 2 mana at instant speed, so that's really cool too. And that's not the only huge threat we have to worry about, but just basically this kills huge threats, Rhino included, so yes, let's do that. Stasis Snare is just good against any creature in the format. This takes out Ulamogs, which I think is cool and might actually be something that we have to consider. It sucks that it can't hit Planeswalkers. That's kind of a bother because we don't have that much D against Planeswalkers, other than just prolonging the game. But in any case, which is not entirely reliable. But again, we need a little bit more D against Planeswalkers. We have some in the sideboard. But anyway, Stasis Snare is just good against 90% of the things in the format, Hits Ojutai even when he swings in. A lot of people are getting really interested in him lately. But in any case, Stasis Snare equals, that's a good card. It's a fine card this is. 3 copies of the only card we need blue mana for, but it's really important, I think, for the deck, and it could even be a 4 of. 3 copies of Ojutai's Command. Now, this does pretty much everything we need it to do, regardless of if we have an archive or out or not. Now, if we do have an archive, this has the potential to be 2 cards and 8 life. That's really, really good. That's Sphinx's Revelation levels of awesome there, But aside from that, this can also counter creatures later on in the game, which is really, really good. It can get back Arishan Cleric or any of our other 2-drops onto the battlefield, but that's not entirely advantageous. Mostly Arishan Cleric is the one we want to get back, which we can make a total of 7 life off of getting back Arishan Cleric. That gives us another chump blocker and 3 life, and it's choosing the 4 life option. So there's just lots and lots of play that the card has in the deck, and I couldn't leave it out. 2 copies in the main deck of Planar Outburst. It's cool too to be able to play a Planar Outburst in the on the 5th turn, and then on the 6th turn follow up with a Dromoka or a Felidar Sovereign. That's a really, really good play. We follow up that very well. That's another reason to play 6 mana dudes as long as we get all of our land drops. So follows up very well, and we don't really need our early game creatures if we end up wiping them off the board. It's like if we've already flipped Den Protector, we can get him off the board and it's fine. He may be brought back by another Den Protector later. Aire Cleric has pretty much already served his function if he hasn't even died to chump blocking yet, you know what I mean? So we don't really care too much about wiping our early creatures, especially if a Hidden Dragon Slayer's already served his purpose, you know? But we do care about following up, which we do well with more Den Protectors, you know? Or Felidar Sovereign, Dragon Lord Jamoka following this up is really good, so... And when we awaken it, the card is really good when you awaken it, but that's sort of a pipe dream in a lot of situations. But again, we you know, stall the game out very well, and it's at least a possibility. So it's good to have a reset button like this. And to finish off the main deck, one copy of Alhammaret's Archive, obviously. Alhammaret's Archive is good, but it's not like entirely necessary. It sometimes feels like a win more. But when we can draw more cards off of a Jutai's Command, that's really good. Although it's like the only way to draw extra cards is off of a Jutai's Command. But really good when we gain life off of, you know, Lifelink and Feed the Clans especially. It's really good in that situation. So it's sort of relegated to a one-of. I just don't think it's important for the deck to win. But when it does come down, it can really, really be good. You know, 2 life turns into 4 life, which is really... That's actually better than you might think. So, turns out I like the card a lot, you know, but I don't want to play like too many of them. And 1 is probably fine because I don't want them to ever be dead in our hand, ever. Here are the lands, there's 26 of them. We do have some blue sources in there. We're able to play a couple of things. Now, Blossoming Sands and the Tranquil Cove, I think, are actually important. Of course, they gain us the life. That's really good. If we have an Alhammaret's Archive out, that's 2 life per land. That's not bad at all. And we're not playing any 1-drops in the deck. So these tap lands can be our 1-drops, and that's an important thing to remember, too. But... in all, I think the deck has a fairly solid mana base. You know, this isn't, at this point, the mana base isn't necessarily rocket science. Here are your power rankings. A final score of 67, which that's quite competitive at the end of the day, you know. I can do a lot of things, and the deck is very, very versatile, you know. It can either win against some decks off of gaining a lot of life. Against other decks, it can win off of dealing damage. A lot of aggro decks, it's fairly good against, obviously, because it's all about gaining life, you know. Aire Cleric's super good at the beginning of the game, you know. Hidden Dragon Slayer is fine as your 2-drop without having to, like, morph him or anything. If you can stall the game out to get a mastery out, you know, you start doing a lot of work really, really fast. And I think it's pretty darn good, honestly, in this format. We cover our bases well. We're decent against control because we've got Jamoka and we've got Master of the Unseen. Both cards are very, very good against controls. Deck is pretty good at a lot of different stuff, you know. It's not bang up at most things, you know. Resiliency and versatility are good departments for it. But those 2 scores being high lead to high marks in other areas, you know. So the deck does a lot of things well. Pretty versatile, can win against a lot of the decks in the format right now. Deck has a lot going for it, and it's a blast to play, and it just does so much. So I've enjoyed it. The deck is good. Well, take that up to your F&M and smoke it. I've got a couple of things that I want to do next time. I know a lot of people have been telling me to do a 5-color Zoo, a deck that I'm really, really working on hard because it's a tough deck, but I think it's really good still. I think it's got a lot of things it can do. So 5-color Zoo is something I'm considering doing next time, or something Rakdos, you know, either Rakdos, you know, Eldrazi, Rakdos aggro, or perhaps Black-Red Dragons, which is a deck that's gaining some traction in sort of the professional community. A lot of buzz about Black-Red Dragons. So one of those, you know, oh, and a deck I've got an idea for, I'm not going to do it next time, but I'm sort of working it out right now, is Rakdos, again, red-black pingers, you know. Right now, we're in an interesting position where Rakdos has Molten Nursery, it's got the Landfall ping thing, it's got Impact Tremors, it's got Nettle Drone, it's got the Black New Blood Artist thing, whose name I always forget. It's got Calastria Healer, but we probably won't use that. There's just like a million different pinging cards. Oh, Chandra, Fire of Kaladesh, it's got that. So there's like 1,000 different little pinging cards that Red and Black have right now. And I think that's really a really interesting deck to take a look at. Well, I think I'm finally out of stuff to say for this video. So, in any case, I will see you guys next time. If you enjoyed the content, do us a favor, please. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and we will see you guys next time. And I'm Deb from SBMTG. Thank you for watching, my wizards.